Good morning, everyone. This is Troy Schlicker with the Austin Spotlight. I am joined today by Max Kunik of the Austin Table Tasters Club. Gotta make sure I get those two tasters, table tasters. Either way, they're some great guy with the company there, kind of exploring Austin restaurants and kind of bringing, hopefully, trying to bring them to the masses and stuff as well too. So appreciate you taking the time, Max. And I put you on mute. So there, I'll just unmute you. You're good to go. So yeah, why don't you I kind of start most of these with what I call kind of like an origin story, because most of us aren't originally from Austin, and so it's always kind of interesting to see what kind of brought you to Austin. How did you make that transition down here or
Yeah,
up here? If you were down south, you never know. So.
for sure. I came up here. Originally, I'm from Houston, and I came here for school. I went to St. Ed's, which is a smaller university in this city, and I kind of just stuck around afterwards. So I've been here for almost 12 years now, which is crazy to say. And after graduating college, I started working for Favor, the food delivery app, running operations for them. And then one thing led to another, and I love food stuff. So my business partner and one of my really good friends, Matt, and I started Tasters Table Club back in 2015.
Very nice. Yeah. I mean, I hear the stories often enough about people coming to Austin. Obviously, you mentioned St. Edward's, like you say, it's a smaller school that most people don't know about. The alumni themselves are, very proud of the school, but UT definitely does dominate the city in just about every way. So a lot of times people aren't aware of that, but you do hear that story a lot of people coming for school and then enjoying it, liking the area so much that they kind of stay long term.
Yeah, I mean, previously to like maybe 5 years ago, UT was the city, and now tech is the city, and there's all kinds of other things that are part of what makes up Austin. So it's been really cool to live through all of that and be like, UT was the only sports in town. Now we have an MLS team, and all this other stuff is happening, which is really cool to be a part of.
And there's like talk potentially of the Buffalo Bills moving here. I think that's more of a ploy to get them to get a new stadium. Yeah, I think it's kind of unlikely, but yeah, similar to me, I moved here a little bit before you would have, and right, it was pretty much this. You had the state government stuff, you had UT, and you had Dell, and those are kind of the three big things. And now it's so much more diverse. Not that there weren't other things before then too, but it's definitely exploded since then. Did you all, like when you went to school, did you have a passion for business or restaurants or those kind of things previously as well, or just kind of happened that when you graduated or when you got the job there, that kind of sparked that interest?
No, so it was kind of an interesting journey to where, my love for food came from up until, probably sophomore year of high school. I was like a peanut butter and jelly guy with not a good palate. And right around that time is when my uncle opened Uchi here. And so that's really what broadened my horizons on food. And ever since then, I've just been trying out new flavors and going to different places. And in college, I started the Food Trailer Alliance group, and we would go try out different food trailers because when you're in college, your budget isn't as big. So we were just going out to different food trucks and working out a deal with them. And then I also worked for Austin Restaurant Week in college. So the foods part has been there through college, and I graduated with a degree in entrepreneurship, knowing that I wanted to start my own company one day. And this was the first one that kind of stuck, and I've just enjoyed doing since then.
Nice. And it's obviously kind of had that organic growth of small steps into it with, Restaurant Week and the Food Truck Alliance. And so it's kind of all those experiences, I'm sure, have been extremely beneficial for you in this current role.
Yeah, of course. I mean, in the food world, knowing people is everything. And I have some food truck friends that I met way back then that I still talk to now. And it's just been, some have left the industry and done other things, and some have gone into brick and mortars. And it's really cool to see that. and now I'm able to, hopefully be part of their journey in other ways.
Yeah, the restaurant business, similar to retail, is challenging for sure, right? I mean, it's just the hours and the long hours, the odd hours, the slim margins for things, and so you kind of either tend to have, I feel like, people that are either lifers or those rising stars that kind of shoot up quick and then kind of burn out just because it's not the type of thing for everyone that way. But I'm sure you've seen, they say a lot of restaurants sometimes will have the same owner, but then after a number of years, for whatever reason, people have kind of gotten used to that restaurant and they want something new, or that type of food has kind of gone out of favor for different reasons. And so a lot of times you'll see a new restaurant pop up. And you're like, ooh, who's the new owner? Oh, it's the same owner. They just decided that it was a time for a different product, or they got bored with what they were doing, right? Like they decided to change their palate and their passion for the type of food. And so they decided to open up something different.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's an ever-changing landscape, especially, you have the high-end dining and then you have the casual dining, and everyone's trying to figure out how to make it kind of going for similar but different customer types. And, for Tasters Table Club, we try and do both ends of the spectrum on going to super nice restaurants and going to food trucks and then getting private chefs that are trying to get their name out there. So we're trying to support the food industry as much as we can by showcasing what everyone's doing. And then, obviously it's a social thing because you're sitting with 8 to 12 people and you're there for at least an hour and a half. So you're going to get to know the people that you're sitting next to, but always the star of the show is going to be the chef and the food.
Sure. So yeah, go into a little bit more. So what kind of prompted you starting? So maybe first off, kind of maybe explain a little bit more what Austin Tasters Table Club is and kind of what you guys do.
Yeah, so I'll start with what prompted it, and then I'll go into what we do, because they're kind of very much aligned. So I was working for the Austin Food and Wine Alliance, doing events for them, and I went to 100 sip and stroll events in a year. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I went to a lot, and I started seeing a lot of the same faces and a lot of the same people going there, and I started asking a lot of questions on like, well, what's the return on investment? How do you know these people are coming to your restaurant after they try out your little bites of food at all these different events? Because it's incredibly hard to track that. And then on the side, I was meeting all these food influencers and Instagram influencers, and they were all going and getting free food from the restaurants to promote and put on their pages and stuff. And they would have these dinners with like 8 or so people, and chef would just bring out a smorgasbord of things that are on the menu. And I was like, okay, well, between these two things, I want to know how I can bring this to the public and how I can stop paying, over $75 a meal with me and my co-founder, Matt. We were paying like $150 every time we went and tried out a restaurant because we were always doing the same game plan. It's like, hey, can you just give us whatever your 6 best items are? And obviously we're going to have a drink because we're going out to eat and just having an experience. And so, we kept on doing these things and our pocketbooks were going down. We were pretty young. And so I just wanted to see how we could bring that same experience, but to the public. And so that's what started Tasters Table Club. Is we started with a membership model, and now the membership model is you pay $100 a year, and then you get access to these dinners that we have at least once a month. And the dinners are always going to be at least 6 courses and a drink, and then you'll sit with 8 to 12 people, sometimes a little bit more, all depending on the type of event. But it's supposed to be super intimate, to where you get to know the chef and you get to really experience it, but you're also talking to the people around you. So it's an inherent networking event, but we really try not to advertise networking because it's a word that sometimes has a bad connotation to it, because you kind of roll your eyes and be like, oh, another networking event. I don't want to do that. There's so many. But this is like, you get to try out really good food, and that's the core part of it. And naturally, you're going to talk about the food, and then maybe you might talk about a little bit of what you do.
Sure. No, the best networking connections tend to be the ones that are more organic anyway, right? So in case like this, you're trying to create that organic situation with the restaurant meal, and then if the networking side of it comes from that, great. But there's an inherent benefit in just experiencing the new restaurant and kind of checking that out.
Yeah, and so the restaurant for us, just to be clear, it doesn't have to be new. We want it to be new to you.
Sure.
So like it could be a restaurant that it's been around for a long time, but we want you to go to it because you haven't been there. Or like maybe they have a totally new menu and you haven't been there in a while. Well, let us remind you that the food's still really good. And that's usually like our number one priority is like, I always say I have the hardest job going and trying out all these restaurants for the group, but it's to make sure that, when we go into the restaurant with the club, that the food is good because I've already vetted it, hopefully. There's been some misses here and there, but I'd say, we have like a 98% success rate, which is pretty high.
Nice. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah. And they say you're willing to fall on that sword to make sure.
It's really hard to eat food all the time.
Yeah. Very nice. So obviously, so you started this business back in 2015. I'm assuming you kind of saw growth happening, whether it was slowly or quickly. And then obviously last year happens, the pandemic, which had to completely change your business model since it completely changed what what restaurants were going. Did you guys do anything unique or different because of that, or did it just kind of halt where business was? What kind of impacts did it have for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, in order for us to make sure that our members were getting any value out of their membership that they were paying, we went to virtual. And so we were hosting virtual cooking classes, we did a cheese tasting class, a chocolate tasting class, and then a sushi rolling class. And then we were just making all kinds of food with different chefs from around town, which was fun for a little while. But I think, over time, people were just worn out from virtual stuff. And it became harder and harder to sell, and more of our members were pushing us to just do outdoor dining. So back in October, we stopped virtual and just started doing outdoor events where individuals were sitting with whoever they wanted to sit with. So it wasn't really the group. It was more like, okay, you come with a +1 or +3, whatever it is, and you guys sit at your own table, and it's kind of at your own risk. And we've been doing that since then, and now we're back to like everyone wants to sit at the same table, and hopefully everyone feels safe doing that, and going into it,
sure,
what you're doing.
Right, exactly. No, that's the big thing, right? If you have the knowledge of, hey, I'm going to go to an event that's going to have 12 people, and we're all going to be at the same table, that that hopefully gives anyone who would have concerns the knowledge they need to make the decision whether it's the right move for them or not.
Right, correct. And that's that. In the beginning, we were like, if you want to sit at your own table, let us know. We'll put you at another table. Well, what we found was nobody wanted to do that. Sure. Everyone wanted to be part of the group, which is perfectly fine with me. It's just a matter of how we seat everybody. Mm-hmm. And I think it just showed that everyone's super ready to be back to normal, even though it doesn't look like we're there yet. But everyone just wants to be able to socialize and do things like they did pre-pandemic, and it's very obvious in events.
Yeah, no, and I think, right, and it's a phrase that even I use a lot of times too, like, return to normal or the new normal. And it's one of those where things will forever be somewhat altered by what's happened and transpired. But as humans, we're social creatures. We want to interact with people, some of us with more than others, but again, someone that's joining your club, I would imagine, enjoys the food part of it, but also enjoys the social aspect of it. So it would be, I would think, pretty common for them to be like, no, like, this is why I want to go at this specific time to meet people and hang out with them versus just grabbing a bite to eat.
Correct. Yeah, for sure. That's exactly what our membership group is. When we started it was mostly 24-year-olds, and everyone did it to support me, or like they heard from a friend. And now it's very interesting to see how we've grown up as a club and our club skews way older than it did before, just because we've have more elevated experiences, and it's not the cheap Tasters Table Club that it used to be. And the members are looking for different things now. And we need to provide the experience for the members that, are paying and coming to the dinners.
Nice. So how many events do you guys usually have, either is it per month or per year, or what's kind of the plan?
Yeah. So we used to have 3 dinners a month, usually all on the same night. We're still growing back up to that. So we're trying to do 3 events a month, but we're waiting to do a big push on that till we think everyone will be coming back from summer. It seems like a lot of people are traveling right now. So we're trying to really push that and launch that in September, going back to 3 dinners a month, not all on the same night. But for August, we'll have 2 dinners, at least 2 dinners, and we might add another one in depending on demand.
Yeah, no, I've definitely seen in the real estate business, normally right before school is always a slow time because families are kind of getting ready for that. But this year that started much earlier as far as people taking vacations, because for a lot of people it had been a year and a half or longer since they'd had the chance to take a vacation. And so I think there's been a lot of people that have gone early, probably gone longer than normal to get those vacations in. And so I'm sure you're seeing that on your side of things as well.
Yeah, definitely. We came in, it was like May, we were selling out all these dinners, and it was awesome. And then June and July, we're like, okay, I don't think people are here. And now we're starting to see some people come back. We have an event in a little less than 2 weeks that we have 50 seats for, because it's a mashup event of 2 really awesome chefs, which I'll talk about it later. But we've sold a good amount of those seats, and that just is telling of how many people are coming back.
Nice. Has there been, so you mentioned obviously some of the things you were doing during COVID. Are there any of those kind of events that you think you would potentially carry forward to add to the business model and experience that you did there?
For sure. I mean, that's a great question. And we did this thing in January called ATX Bagel Box. And we featured 3 different bagel shops in town, and they provided us with a half a dozen bagels and a couple of schmears. And then we included all kinds of items from local companies. And it was really successful for us. And so now we're trying to roll that model out in the bakery form. And we want to be doing a thing called what we're calling Bakery Box. And it's going to feature a different bakery every month. And it'll be a subscription service for that. And we kind of learned how to master that model, or hopefully master that model, in January. And I think we're going to be rolling that out also in September, because it's just like people like getting fun things at home still, even if you're able to be out in public. But getting some nice treats with some surprises is just something fun to get at your house, especially if you're living with someone else and be like, oh, well, this is really cool. I've never heard of this place, or like I'd never even tried this. And I think that'll be a hit. And we'll only be featuring local bakers that, again, we're doing the hard work of trying them out and making sure they're good, so that everyone can also make sure that they're delicious. Every month they're going to get delicious treats.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, we do tend to, at least I do, right? You tend to get in the habit of places that you go, or your daily routine. So, I'm not a coffee drinker, but people go to Starbucks all the time, or go to Dunkin' Donuts. And so you tend to have those routines. And so it's, especially on the bakery side of things, because it's usually an early morning thing, or a, buy for an occasion kind of thing, that you tend to have probably your 1 or 2 places that you get most of those kind of things from. And like I said, Austin has so many different varieties of stuff, but it's also can be challenging, right? Like if you're not necessarily wanting a lot of something, well, who wants to drive all the way across town for that bakery item? But if you can get it delivered to you, then it's like, oh yeah, I'd love to try out some different foods that way.
Yeah, and you're kind of hitting the nail on the head there with, the whole reason we started the club was like to get people trying out new places that they hadn't been to. And the headache for most people that I know is, how do I find which place I want to go to? I know which places are good, but half the time I go to a new place and I don't enjoy it, and then I'm mad I didn't go to the place that I know that I like. Well, that's kind of the part that we're trying to take out, and it really is, especially now. It's just like the media is with trying to figure out what's right, what's wrong, and what's hype, what's not. It's the same in food, and it's really hard to figure out which places are actually good versus which places are paying people money to say that they're good.
Yeah, no, I mean, nowadays you can almost create your own award, right? So like there's probably a few things, the Chronicle has their best of, which is usually, probably more accurate, but even there, right? Like there's restaurants and, different individuals that push to their people. And so if you just have a larger audience, a larger fan base, that can help keep you on the top of some of those types of lists, just because you're popular rather than necessarily being the best in a food product or a restaurant category.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think that the news editorials do a really good job, but some of these other online editorials, I see some trends sometimes that, if the restaurant has money or is working with the PR group, it's almost a guarantee that they're getting into the editorials online.
Yeah. And there's so many spaces that need information, need content, that if you're, right, like they not that they don't want to be, not that most of them, I don't think want to be as fair and down the middle and opinionated as possible. But when you're like, oh, someone's going to come and, kind of handle this for us, it's like, okay, great. And so they, you don't necessarily have the time to go check out all the restaurants, like newspaper, the Austin Statesman, news organizations' budgets get slashed. So you can't, having a full-time food critic who is completely unbiased is, a job that's no longer there.
Yeah, no. And I don't discredit any of these online editorials. Yeah. Everyone has a job and you're trying to pay for your life. And so I don't discredit any of them. It's just, as a consumer of reading their articles, sometimes I'm disappointed in seeing something that I know not to be true. And what I've also been alerted of in the more recent futures, everyone has their own taste buds. Everyone's entitled to their own opinions. And so you might love a place and I really disliked a place. And neither of them are wrong. Yeah. It's just a matter of what, maybe you had a better date than I had, or maybe the chef was on your night and the chef was off my night. If there's all kinds of factors that go into it. So I never say that someone's wrong, and it's only everyone's opinion.
Yeah. Very, very, very true. You mentioned you have a dual chef event coming up here in August. Kind of tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, so we have a really exciting mashup event with Chef Bob from Sexy Food Co. and Daniel Brooks from Leach's Cantina. And so they're going to be doing, and it's 4 courses, but it's 8 plates of food from their own countries and kind of tapping into a little bit of each other's countries. And so it's going to be a lot of mashup food. It's going to be paired with 4 drinks. We'll have a live DJ there, and I'm sure they're going to have some surprises. They're entertainers themselves. So they're coming up with totally new dishes that aren't on either of their menus. And they've been having fun with it. I've been in text groups with them, just like them going back and forth on, what do you think about this? Will this go well with your dish? Will this go well with your dish? And if you haven't had Leach's or Sexy Food Co., I highly suggest going. They're incredibly talented chefs, and their food always impresses. So bringing them together is going to be a party, but the food's also going to be unbelievable. Amazing. I'm really, really excited about that. And it's $150 for non-members, and it's $125 for members.
Nice. And it's got to be something that's fun for the chefs to kind of break out of their traditional menus as well.
Yeah, exactly. Their chefs are usually excited when they get to do stuff with other chefs that they respect, and when they can make something that's not on like their daily menu. And this is both. So usually when they get to use their creative minds and they're both good chefs, good stuff's going to come of it.
Nice, very nice. And do you know when in August that's supposed to be?
Yeah, that's going to be August 16th. It's Monday, August 16th.
Nice. Perfect. Right after kids can stay home and get their homework done, because school should be back in session then. So
yeah, and if we sell that out, we might be doing it round 2 the following week, but the numbers have to be there.
Sure.
We'll let you keep it to this show. We're not saying that.
So for people that are interested, say, in that specific event, or just kind of interested in learning more about you guys, what's kind of the best ways to either get in touch or stay in touch and stay abreast of what you guys are doing?
Yeah, so if you have specific questions, always feel free to email me at max@tasterstableclub.com, or you can go on our Instagram at Austin or tasterstableclub.atx. And we're super active on Instagram, less active on Facebook. And between those two mediums, you'll be able to contact us and get in touch with me. And we'd be happy to answer any questions. But the Instagram, you're going to be able to keep up with all of our events. And then you can always go to our website at austin.tasterstableclub.com. And there's a list of events that we have and a little bit more information on what the membership includes.
Nice. Any other kind of big plans going forward other than the event here coming up in August, or in a couple of weeks now that it's, the 3rd of August?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's our big event that we've been focusing on. We've got this bakery box that we'll be launching in September, and we're constantly lining up really good restaurants and chefs to work with. It's just a matter of, we only plan them a little over a month out, because that's how restaurants work. And, over 6 years now, we've kind of figured that out, that if we're trying to plan out 4 months ahead of time, it's usually pretty tough. We forgot things before, because we've done that in the past, and then all of a sudden some restaurant backs out, or unfortunately a restaurant will shut down, and then it messes up our whole schedule. So we don't want to spend too much time on things that might not happen, where we know a month and a half it'll happen, because it's only a month and a half away.
You guys probably have a plan that's a little further out than that, but as far as really nailing stuff down with the restaurants, that's kind of that perfect time window for you.
Yeah, and we don't normally launch dinners up until like 10 days before the dinner, because that way it gives hopefully our members a sense of urgency to buy the tickets. And it gives us time to get the menu from the restaurant. And so people should know exactly what they're getting.
Nice. One of the things I did see on the website that doesn't necessarily pertain to me, but it might be of importance to people, is you do mention that because it is a limited restaurant, it is a limited amount of items, or selected items from the menu, and that there's some limitations as far as making alterations or food sensitivities that way.
Yes, I thank you for bringing that up, because that is kind of a pain point for some people. But yes, since we only have 12 people going to some of these dinners, it's incredibly difficult to be able to handle people's dietary restrictions. And we understand a lot of dietary restrictions are very valid. Just if a chef is creating a menu, we can't adhere to dietary restrictions. Otherwise, we don't know what the pricing of everything is, and it just makes the whole flow of things not as great. Because, if Troy is gluten-free and I'm not gluten-free, and it's a pasta place, and then all of a sudden you have like 4 different items than I have, well, I'm part of this Tasters Table Club to try out everything. Now I want to try out your things because I'm curious. And so it just makes a better flow of conversation if everyone's getting the same dishes. And everyone's got their own opinions on it, but in our experience, that's what's been, kind of key to get good restaurants to sign up for during our club.
And it's one of those, right? Say you guys have the niche that you're working towards. And again, while we'd all love to be able to help everyone, that's just not really the way things work. And so as long as you're kind of transparent, have you guys ever has there been enough interest that you've done events that say were a gluten-free event specifically, or a vegan or vegetarian event specifically?
We haven't done that specifically. I can say that we've done a gluten-free meal. It just happened to be gluten-free. But we've always, teased with the idea of it. And I think as we get our systems really rolling again, then we'll be able to, maybe start another portion of our club that really is focused on a gluten-free or vegetarian or different parts. But we're not quite there yet. We still need to see an increased tick on what we used to have.
You still need to focus on your core business and getting that back to 2018, 19 levels, and then from there you can look at the potential to expand and what makes the most sense. Like you say, it probably potentially makes more sense to do something like the Baker Box or something in that genre versus a dietary specific.
Correct. Yeah. For right now, and the beauty of this is we're such a small and nimble company, is we can always pivot to other things. And if there's interest, we can make it work. We always tell people, like, if you want to do a private event and you want us to help, we obviously know the chefs, like we can do that too. And that can be another part of our business. But right now the focus is on the core in this membership, and then how we can keep growing and making the membership more valuable.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to sit down and chat. I know you guys are getting busier and busier as things go along. And again, that your big event's only a couple weeks away now. It's hard to believe it's already the start of August. So
can't believe it's August.
Yeah, it's year has gone by quickly. Again, for anyone that needs information, probably the easiest way is going to their website, austin.tastersTable.com, tasterstableclub.com, and you can kind of get on the rest of the social media and contact information and stuff there. So again, Max, appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Troy.
Awesome. Everyone have a wonderful day.